Welcome, everybody from all around the world, and anybody who's watching a delayed broadcast on demand. We're glad to have you with us with our weekly Asea 5 webcast. We originate from San Antonio, Texas, with Jim and Ann Glenn.
Hello there.
Jim is keeping us financially anchored, and that's kind of one of the topics that we have tonight. Maureen Hayes, we want to excuse her. She's another regular, but she's attending a funeral in her family on the East Coast, so we hope all is well and pray well for her family. We also have Chuck and Tammi Gates from the great state of Montana, Helena, Montana. So we're glad that they're with us, and we'll come back and hear their story in just a minute. And Paul Taira from the great Henderson, sitting there in front of, what is it, Lake Mead in Ecuador or something like that. I don't know. Right out in Nevada. So we didn't know that there was water in Nevada, so you're making up for it somehow. But anyway, we welcome you all here. We've got a business-oriented show. We will talk about some of the health and the science as to what makes redox signaling molecules and this great breakthrough important for us to discuss. And I'd like to just kick it off, and let's go to Chuck and Tammi and Helen. And maybe each of you could start off by giving us your background. What brought you to this, or what brought this to you? And why did that seem attractive to you? What sealed the deal for you? Tell us your story.
Do you want to go first?
Okay.
We can appoint one of you.
Go ahead, and then I'll do it all together.
I'll just kind of go back. Well, this is a home-based business, a true network marketing company, and the old term is MLM. And that is kind of like you're comparing reel-to-reel or vinyl tapes to now what is chip or, wireless and everything else. And so the technology has just moved. But I was introduced in 1976, very first time to network marketing. And I was going to college. I came home on a break and was drugged to a meeting and asked, and I ended up signing up. And then I went back to school and didn't do nothing but drink beer and chase girls. And but it let me see that at that point that there was an avenue of having your own business and building an organization that could actually not just provide additional income, but could be your sole income if you chose to do so. And over the years, we got married. We met my second year of college, her first, and we've been married for 43 years. We have 3 kids, 7 grandkids. And over those years, I just kicked the tires on a lot of companies. And I would say, people would say, oh, you're an entrepreneur. And Tammi would say, no, he's just always in the manure. He steps into everything that comes down the pike. And but that was kind of the way it was. We actually did. This is actually the 3rd company that we've been at the top of. There was one company I was only with for 5 months, and I was at the top of it, but that was kind of lame. Our last company, we were with them full time for 18 years. We did very well with them. We made about $3.5 million over that period of time. However, all companies are not created equal. And even though they started out as a real wholesome type of company, it got to be all about the dollar. And they wouldn't take on a new product unless they could mark it up by about 800%. And our income had went from as high as $50,000 a month all the way back down to $5,000. And when you live on that kind of an income and it goes down, you've got bills that need to be serviced and paid, just like you had the 50 grand, because they keep coming. And so our eyes were open that things didn't look very promising even after 18 years. And we got a phone call to look at Asea, this company you're looking at tonight. And it's been the best move that's ever happened for us in our lives. And I guess I'll just let Tammi kind of fill you in. But we've checked a lot of companies, and the one thing, there's a lot of people that have been kind of in our shoes where they've made a career. This is now we're over 30 years full-time network marketing, and you get people like that to come look at this company, and they just can't they can't wrap their head around it at first, but once they really look at it, they'll tell you they've been looking for this company all their life, or they didn't believe there could be anything this good out there, or something that literally had not just another type of product in the same category, but something that was its own category with absolutely no competition worldwide. So yeah, we're really in a great spot, and I'll let her kind of tell you a little bit more from us.
Well, I met Chuck 3 months after high school. So when he said he got involved with his first company in 1976, that's when I met him. I was raised, however, to get as much college as your parents could afford, and then go find the best dollar per hour job you could find, and have really good work ethics so that you could build your resume and get promotions and raises, and then get better jobs and better jobs. So when we got married in 1979, that was my plan for him, was for him to get better and better and better jobs. But he had this thing in his heart that burned, that he knew there was a better way for us. And one day he asked me to go to a network marketing meeting with him. And I was so skeptical. I did not want to go, but he promised me dinner and drinks after the meeting. So I went to the meeting to get to the date. But as I sat in the meeting, you know, I looked around, and the people I was listening to and watching were genuine, and they were sincere, and their stories would really, really, really impact your heartstrings. And so I think it was that night that my perspective changed. So I joined Chuck in the industry. But like he said, we were with a company that began to make bad choices. And what we've learned since then is how to spy and how to spot and how to choose a stellar legacy company that you can actually earn generational wealth from. And we found Asea when they were 6 months old in 2009. But because of what we had been through, when we found Asea, we weren't that healthy financially. We actually had 17 credit cards that were maxed out to the tippy top. We were, foreclosure was breathing down our necks with our home. I used to not want to pick up the phone at 8 o'clock in the morning when it rang, because I knew it was a collection agency. And it was easier to stick my head in the sand than to face reality. And we had no clue what retirement would look like for us. And then we found Asea, and we met the founder. At that time, he's retired now, Vertus Norton. And he found out about some of our struggles, and he put his arm around me like a grandfather and said, Chuck and Tammi, we're going to take care of you here at Asea. And so we came home from meeting him that day and jumped in with both feet. We actually had a non-compete clause when our other company found out that we found Asea. So it isn't like we could just talk to all of our former team and bring them over into Asea. We weren't allowed to do that. So we started over at the bottom. And eventually some of our former company people found us. But today I can tell you that we don't have 17 credit cards. We have a business one and a personal one, and we pay them both off every Friday. And we have a very safe and well-funded retirement. And we're due to pay off our 8,000 square foot house here in Montana in 2024. And so things are better. But more than all of that, you guys, more than all of that is the tens of thousands of people whose lives have been changed with our product. We have a product that nobody else has. And so, yeah, we just couldn't be more satisfied and happy.
Yeah, I actually, the thing that's interesting is COVID is lessened a little bit around the country, around the world, but it's still there. And the fact is that you would think most companies, and there has been businesses that have closed businesses, but this business, we're not even finished yet, and this is the largest week ever in our company's history, in Asea's history, and it's the largest we've ever had in our history with the company. And so things are working well. It's a safe place to be, and it's still on the verge of just breaking loose. So you couldn't find it a better time if you're looking here for the first time tonight.
Chuck and Tammy, thank you for that report. That's always inspiring. Paul, you want to jump on and give us your background story and what makes this tick for you?
Yeah, so I've got a little bit of a different story. I came from the military originally out of high school. I joined the United States Marine Corps, did 6 years there. And right after Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, which I can't believe is 30 years ago. And the reason I know that is because this August, we're getting a bunch of us double dogs here in Vegas, and we're going to have our little reunion from our homecoming from that. But yeah, that was 30 years ago. And so after I got back, I kind of had some career choices to make. I didn't think I was going to be able to get rich doing what I did, carrying a rifle. So I turned in my M16 for a computer keyboard and became a nerd. And I jumped into corporate America and I spent about 11 years climbing the corporate ladder in that space of information technology. Then in 2000 was offered a chief technology officer position with a startup.com company. I was like employee number 3, and we ended up having 100 employees within about 6 months. And I had 250,000 shares in it. And it was just, it was quite a ride, quite a roller coaster ride. And I thought that was going to be my exit. I mean, I thought I had my great exit plan all figured out at age 30. But then the bubble burst, the dot-com bubble burst. And I realized that there were a lot of things outside of my control that could impact my future. So I decided to start my own business and have control. And was doing pretty good, but again, it was still tough getting technology clients back then. And there was a lot of things I didn't like to do with the business. I didn't like the legal stuff, the accounting, all that other stuff. I just wanted to fix people's computer problems and do some big solutions and things like that. And so I was consulting for a network marketing company starting up, and I just became fascinated with the business model. I said, wow, you mean I could work hard for, maybe a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and be able to create enough income that recurs every month and be able to control the hours that I work. And all I got to do is go out and help people and share something wonderful I believe in. I go, that's kind of makes more sense. I go, even though I love technology, with all the other headaches of whether a business owning me or a corporation owning my time, I said, wow, this really looks like I'd be able to have that chance. So that's what I did. I jumped in full bore, had a few wonderful experiences, more than a few bad experiences with companies, as Chuck had shared too, I'm sure as well. And so I just decided to do what a lot of us do, is become a consultant. And I just said, look, I'm just going to go out and help companies, whether it's on the IT side or on the network marketing side, training side, education. Actually, one of my funnest projects was working in Jamaica. I lived in Jamaica, West Indies for about 1.5 years. That was a lot of fun. But I didn't think I was going to hitch my wagon to a company again, because I just found that all the companies out there I looked at had deficiencies in areas, whether it was their products, whether it was the people that were running the company, whether it was their compensation plan, the timing, what kind of support resource tools that they had available. So it wasn't until October of 2009 when I flew in to take a look at Asea and got a chance to meet the founders like Tammi was mentioning there, Vertus, Norton as well. And it just felt like home. I could just feel like kind of the oozing of the integrity and ethics and values, and that, these people didn't need to be there. They had enough money to do whatever they want, but they really felt like this was the way that they needed to get this technology and product out to the market to help as many people as quickly as possible around the world. So that's, kind of my story. I jumped right into it and have been super excited, and it's allowed me to travel the world and see places. I'd never been to Europe. Prior to Asea, I've been to the Far East when I was in the Marine Corps, and but that was still in the Marine Corps. now we've been to the Far East and be able to actually sightsee and see some amazing places and meet some amazing people, again, all around the world, like the Gates and like Jim and Ann Glenn there. So it's, of course, yourself, Lee. So it's just been a wonderful experience, and super excited for the future.
Hey, Paul, real quick, how did you explain this technology? And Chuck and Tammi, same thing after Paul. But Paul, how did you understand what this technology was back in the beginning? How was it
a few months
explained to you? I mean, we have a lot more tools now. We have double-blind placebo studies, but back then you're making me seasick again, Paul. Now,
I know. I'm sorry, my camera almost fell off the thing. Okay. Sorry about that.
How did you explain it back in the beginning?
Well, it was funny. The atomic medical physicists that developed or stabilized the product initially, the first presentation I saw was about 3.5 hours long of just listening to mitochondria and positive ion things. So I kind of, at the end of the day, though, kind of in my head, realized it was very similar to a few different fundamental technologies in the technology world. One of them was like the cell phone tower technology, right? So we all have cell phones, and they need to communicate. And these are like cell phone towers. So as we age, our cell phone towers start to diminish. They start to break down. And so therefore cell phones cannot communicate in your body very efficiently. So this was the ability to re-put in cell phone towers to bring those signal strengths up and bars on your phone, and therefore things can get fixed and emergencies addressed. Subsequently, again, my really IT background in technology was with computers, so Microsoft. And a lot of people don't know Microsoft. The reason why it created the wealthiest man in the world, Bill Gates, was because of the operating system, which became known as Windows, because every computer, has software on it, whether you're using a word processor like Word, PowerPoint. Back then it was for the old schoolers, Word Perfect or Lotus 1-2-3, a spreadsheet, if you guys can remember those days. I'm sure everyone's too young to remember that. But basically, there were these software, but no matter what software you ran, all the computers needed to have Microsoft Windows. It was the operating system. And so I could equate that. So no matter what kind of vitamins or juices you're drinking or other things, this redox technology was really more at the fundamental layer, like the operating system was to the computer. And I said, if the operating system on a computer could create the wealthiest man in the world, on the planet, well, not everyone to this day even has a computer, but everyone has a human body. And we have that ability. And similarly, like Microsoft, it is protected heavily by patents. So it puts that even, at a more closer relationship to Microsoft.
Now, Tammi, I did not know that you were a EMT, correct?
Yeah, I was raised in law enforcement and emergency. I always say that I was thrown in the back of something with lights and sirens from the time I was a little girl. I remember riding in the back of my dad's patrol car, taking a nap when I was tiny.
Your father was a policeman?
Yeah, a highway patrolman. Well, all kinds, volunteer firemen, search and rescue, all kinds. But that was in my blood. So I became an EMT as an adult. And Paul, it's interesting that you shared how redox signaling works in your mind from your background, because I love the image of your house being on fire and you pick up your phone, and the fire department, on the other hand, is ready, willing, and able to come and rescue you. But if the signal can't get through to the fire department, there's no way they can figure out your address and come and help you. Mm-hmm. And so it's along the same lines as just that reception.
So I would just, for me, I was enchanted, which a lot of people, even maybe if you're an associate, you don't even really know the history, but I was enchanted of how this came about. And it really started with, before it being Asea, there was a group of scientists, medical scientists, that tried to create a new pharmaceutical drug. And they actually, it's so interesting because things have to make sense for me. And Lee, coming from a medical background, we all know one of the first things, if you end up in one of those ambulance or they've called the EMTs, one of the first things they're going to do is hook you up to an IV, which is saline, salt and water. If they get you to the hospital, they hook you up to another one. And it's literally saved millions and millions of people's lives all over the world. And so there was a group of scientists that decided, hey, we're going to take saline and break it down and figure out and see if we can't create a new pharmaceutical drug. And so they spent over $20 million or $30 million, 20 years, and developed 23 patents on their research, and all on breaking down saline. But they couldn't get it to stabilize. They didn't know what they had. And as Paul was saying, it wasn't until it got into the hands of Ernest Norton and getting to an atomic medical physicist, Dr. Gary Samuelson, and he identified these are the same molecules that these guys over here in 98, just prior, had received the Nobel Prize for, with better microscopes of the day, being able to follow these molecules and realize what was once thought was a waste product, just because the mitochondria produces these molecules naturally in your body and in plants and animals. Everything on the planet Earth that has more than one cell has redox signaling molecules that are being produced. But they thought it was a production of energy and it was just a byproduct or a waste product. And these three gentlemen with better microscopes of the day discovered that no, this is not a waste product. This is how every cell communicates with other cells. This is what contacts the immune system when the body's in trouble or the plant's in trouble. This is what activates antioxidants. So as you take nutritions in, they need to be activated. And so that was a breakthrough. It was Nobel Prize breakthrough. And here, these other guys had created this product and they didn't know what they'd created. And they had created these molecules for the first time ever in history outside of living cells, never to be able to be done. And so that's really, to me, that's the magic. So when you say, what did I tell people? I started telling them all this background of other stuff. But the saline thing and them going in an ambulance made sense to people. They said, wow, it must be good. It's being used all over the world. So it makes sense that maybe somebody could create something great out of it. And so that it's kind of, and then of course, it's a fairy tale. When I very first, it was interesting. They thought they couldn't get it to stabilize. And I was visiting with Gary one time and they had the machines that they were making it with. And so he tore apart the machine. And when he tore it apart, he found out that they had miswired it and crossed what? They had miswired it and crossed the negative and the positive and got them mixed up. And so he thought, that's it. I'll put the wires properly and then it will stabilize. So he did just that. And guess what? It didn't make redox signaling molecules at all. And so goes on to be, is the mystery of how this all came about and why they've got it back with so many patents. And, but it's what it does. It's the real miracle, what it does for people. So,
okay. So Tammi, with your background and with what you guys heard in the beginning, how hard was it to believe that this is real? Because we hear it all the time now. It's just saline, just like what Chuck, you were saying. It's saline, but it's not. So Tammi, how hard was it for you to wrap your brain around that in the beginning?
It wasn't hard for me to wrap my brain around the product technology. Although I'm a flight medic and although I drive an ambulance and although I'm an emergency medical tech, I don't have a medical background. So it wasn't hard for me to wrap my brain around the science behind Asea because it's so well scienced. It was harder for me to wrap my brain around the way the network marketing industry, like I explained it in the beginning.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I do not believe the technology is under trial. It's clearly researched. and it's heavily backed by science and research.
Yeah.
And so it's not under trial. We talked to a guy yesterday, and a person that was looking at the information for the first time. And when we asked him, do you have any questions? He said, what will my doctor tell me about this product? And we said, well, if your doctor went to medical school probably before the 1998, 99, 2000-ish, he wasn't taught about redox signaling molecules. So he won't know about them. And so we'll have to help you educate him.
So, Lee, how hard was it for you to wrap your brain around this? You're the new one on the block here, and you're a doctor. You're a very well-known, thought of, and doctor, past president, and founder of AHOJ. How did you wrap your brain around this, Lee? You're brilliant when it comes to the science. How hard was that for you? Not even, I know, the chicken bone of network marketing, but how hard was it for you to wrap your brain around this?
Well, it helps to have a good experience because there's a feeling side to this, and that was my story. Is my wife's physician asked us to get her on them. We said, what else can we do? And he says, I think you need some redox molecules. At the time, he wasn't involved. He just knew about it. And I said, so what is that? And he goes, just go Google it and get some. And I went off on my own and Googled it and found some, and we started using it. And it was like flipping a switch for my wife. It took a little longer for me, but I saw what happened with my wife. And, the inquisitive side of my mind said, I've got to know why. I have to know where these electrons are moving. When they say redox, I knew that was chemistry. And maybe I can just say a couple of things about that, because I love the metaphors that Paul and Chuck and Tammi have used about, describing this. But if you go back to the very term redox signaling molecule, in those three words is the description of what this is. Redox is about reduction, oxidation, and that's the movement of electrons. That's the way things that we sit here and communicate, because we have brains and vocal cords and we can think and we're cognitive, but cells don't have those things. So when we say signaling or cellular communication, the cell phone thing, we're asking the question, how does a cell know to communicate? What does that mean? I mean, we have thermostats in our home that when a certain condition arrives, there's a detection mechanism in the thermostat that turns on our HVAC unit, and it adjusts whatever ambient situation needs to be adjusted until it's corrected, then it turns off. Well, how does a cell know to do that when its ambient, its oxidative state or balance is disrupted for whatever reason? And that's what this signaling, technology is all about. The mitochondria that Paul was talking about is where these redox molecules are made. It is like having an electrolysis chamber inside the cell, fractionating or taking apart saline, which is salt, sodium chloride, and hydrogen and oxygen, and reassembling them into redox molecules, which is what the immune system uses, number one, to kill bacteria inside the immune system. But what we discovered since the 98 Nobel Prize for nitric oxide cell signaling that was referred to is that these very same molecules have a dual purpose to signal pathway genes. That's what activates gene expression at the DNA level so that we can respond to the changing conditions in the cell. So as I started to learn about that, it started to make sense, because it was like, it's what I call turning on the inner doctor, or awakening the inner doctor. And when that inner doctor wakes up, then I don't need so much outside doctoring. It's like they can act; they don't need to be acted upon. And so I can start to get away, from all the herbs and that. Not that that's bad, but and I certainly don't want anybody going away thinking, well, they don't need medicine anymore, because that's just not the way to approach this. But I will have less need of it as my health improves. If my blood sugar stabilizes, if my blood pressure stabilizes, if my pain goes down, I'll be able to go to my physician and I'll be able to make adjustments properly, because my cells are now doing what they're supposed to. So I got my head wrapped around that, and then I had to go tackle this chicken bone that was sideways in my throat. Long family history there, and it's hard. It's still hard to do that, and I have to rely on the science. I have to go back to that science background and say, This is the coolest thing since what, sliced bread or whatever they say, because it's a new category. This has never been done before because they weren't able to do it. We've known about redox signaling for a very long time. They were making, they were doing electrolysis back in the 1800s. That's how they made hydrogen gas. This is all over the chemistry world. But it wasn't until what happened that was referred to earlier occurred, where they stabilized a reactive molecule outside of the body that made it have a shelf life so that I could put it in the body and replenish the gas tank, as it were, so that I can signal more optimally, and not because I'm getting old and there's less of it going on. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's how I kind of approach it and help explain it.
Can you go ahead and give the medical disclaimer, please, real quick?
Yes, thank you. This is really important because, you know, what we talked about earlier is this could not become a drug. This was going down a pathway to be a drug. It's so non-toxic, meaning it's so safe. They couldn't kill any mice, and you've got to have a lethal dose 50, which is the dose. You just keep raising it until half the specimens perish in order to become a drug. Well, that never happened because this does not activate that what we call the NF-κB pathway, the inflammatory pathway, is totally non-toxic. So because of that, they flipped it to the supplement side. And so therefore, we can't make medical claims. We can't talk about specific diseases. This is not a cure. This is not a diagnosis for any named specific medical condition or whatever. This is simply restoring the cell's native ability to function like it should. Whatever's downstream from that, which is the wonderful magic of why this works in networking, whatever and everything that works better afterwards improves. So it's like had it gone down that path, we'd only been able to talk about the one thing they tested, maybe the two things they tested. Everything else is off label and we can't mention it. Now we can tell stories about everything. So that's the disclaimer.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. I was going to ask, so Paul, I was thinking about the comment you made about, working for yourself and being your own boss. And I think people don't realize what a big deal it is to have residual income, that this model for business is so much better than working time for dollars. Jim and I came from corporate America. It was our first network marketing gig. And I think about Tammi and Chuck every time I hear their name. You know, they're a rags to riches story. They're an inspiration to us when we met them the first time, because we were pretty broke when we got into the business. We started part-time, then it was like it was put right in front of our face. This could be our solution financially too, because we didn't get into it for the business initially. We did it because we needed to have life changes for Jim's health. And once that happened, it made logical sense to leave after a year and a half, he left a 30-year stockbroking career to share this around the world. Now, I am going on 3 years full-time, part-time in the beginning. So I worked a ton of hours with 2 jobs, but I knew my heart was here. And so people don't realize how bad we got. Now, we didn't have 17 credit cards.
We couldn't even qualify for a credit card.
No, everything we do today is still debit only. And it's been debit only for about, I'm guessing about 11, 12 years. And so it's just neat to, when people today are looking at this, possibly doing this as a business, or maybe they're brand new. We have a lot of people new on our team. Maybe we can talk about the ethos and the culture and the community and why someone would not only choose Asea for the health side, but also for the, financial. Last year for us was literally when, unfortunately, some people, it was really bad. It was truly so big a deal for us and opened wide our business, and it's doing very well now. And we're excited for the next rank up. But so maybe we can talk about that, y'all have been in it from the beginning. So y'all know the heart of the owners, and you were there when it was just the blue bottle, and then it was white and blue. Now it's all blue, but and then Renew 28 came, and then the skincare and nutrition. So maybe y'all can all 3 of you talk about the ethos and the whole company side of things.
Yeah, I think I can relate too with Chuck and Tammi, and being involved with companies who might have lost their way. I think every company will tell you up front that they've got great values and they want to save the world and make the world a better place. But when you start peeling off the onions, or when challenging times come, everyone has challenging times, and it's really about picking the right company that you want to go through those challenging times with. And that's why I think we all, a lot of us who've had previous experience in network marketing with other companies, that was really a big factor for us when we got to meet the founders and just go like, hey, this is a found. I mean, this is where we want to leave our legacy with, and so consequently, because of that, again, our model, to answer the second, I think, part of the question is we just believe our model is a better way. Right. It's like we're not a work from home really business. We're an entrepreneur from home. There's a difference, right? You can drive an Uber car or a Lyft, but if you're not driving, you don't have a passenger, you're not making any money. And here again, we're about helping other people and helping other people be able to control their hours and work their time. And again, if you work 0 hours, you make $0. So it's network marketing, so you got to put that work in. But the reality is you can compress 40 years into 4 years. If you work hard and have the ability to work when you want, or even not work. But I think as a lot of us, created whatever level of residual income that people needed, we just love it. It's very rewarding to help other people. And now I know a lot of us pretty much, I know Chuck and Tammi myself as well. We like to help people regardless of if they're in our organizations or not. It's very rewarding to be able to do that. So it's you start to get deeper meaning and deeper rewards when you're able to have control of your time, and your income's not just stressing you out every day to pay the bills. So those are some big benefits that I've found.
Yes.
So Tammi, how do you, when you come across somebody that's been, I would say, wounded or hurt, that had a bad experience with the previous company, how do you share this with them? What do you say? Because we had a lady that joined us a month ago. She said, is it network marketing? Yeah. No. Just flat out no. Now, she persisted, the lady that brought her in, and the changes are remarkable. But how do you coach someone that's been wounded or that says, I just don't want to do it anymore?
Yeah, what's that saying? A man convinced against his will is still a man.
Of his opinion still.
And so you can't really debate it with people, but you can find out what hurt them and why they do this. And, Paul actually was the one who taught me about there are some critical elements to look for when choosing a network marketing company. And I think one of the biggest ones he taught me about was the corporate executives. Do they know what they're doing? Have they done what they're trying to do in the past? What is their own integrity and ethos level? And, our executives at Asea have hundreds of years of experience, both in and out of the network marketing industry, running businesses.
Right.
So what I mean by that is they weren't a successful network marketer who found a new product and decided to pin it to network marketing and go make $1 billion. They aren't a private equity investor who purchased a network marketing company and want to make a certain amount of money, and then they're going to sell them. They don't care what happens to anybody else. Our founders and our executives at Asea know what they're doing, and their heart is in it. Their passion is in it. They want us to win. They communicate with their top field leaders. It's a back and forth. What do you think? If we do this, what do you think? And so there's really a partnership between very highly experienced business people and the field. And so, it's like, if people are opposed to network marketing, they've had a bad experience.
Right.
They've had a bad experience for a reason. it might be their executive leadership. It might have been their upline. It might have been promises. It might have been hype. It might have been pressure. And so you just have to educate them and bring them along slowly and help them figure out that we are different.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Chuck, you're a people person. You're the life of the party guy. Now, we've been blessed. I think all of us here have met Virtus. The gentleman running the head of the company today is Tyler. How do you explain those two? Because it's really hard to explain, to describe them. And a lot of people may not be blessed, may not meet Virtus, but again, we all have. But how do you explain him?
I tell you, I love the saying that we've all heard growing up and all through life is the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It isn't just Tyler. That whole family is absolutely brilliant. The brothers, the sisters. Tyler is just a phenomenon, just like his father, as well as his brothers and sisters. And you know, one of the things, as Tammi was saying that about the company, is this company is humble. And if there's something, they do something wrong or they ask or something, that they're ones to say, hey, you're right, we're sorry, we're going to figure this out and do it right. I've been in companies, I know as maybe some of you guys have, or in corporate or whatever, and when something's brought to somebody higher up, they defend themselves and they, you know, if anything, because you challenged them, they're ready to fire you. Not the case here. This company is really what I love to say, they're top shelf. And as far as when you get to know, I mean, not very many people have been wrote up in Harvard Business School and things like that, where Virtus Norton, you know, he was strategic planner for Kraft Foods, not just for the US, but worldwide. And when he wanted to retire, he was so important to the company that they said, no, you can't retire. We're not going to let you retire. We're just going to give you more money and fly you and your wife to Europe and you go straighten out Europe. But the fact is that I was in just to kind of put it to this way, and Paul, you might have been there for this, but I remember a meeting that I was at in Salt Lake. It was a fly-in, and there was about 120 people showed up for this meeting, and it was held in a room in a hotel. And as people started coming in, Tyler was up by the door, and he'd shake people's hands. Hi, what's your name? I'm Tyler, and where are you from? And what do you do? And and this and that. And then he started walking through the crowd as people were getting their seats. And I don't think we've met yet. I'm Tyler. What's your name? Well, there was a bus of people that came from Mexico, and Tyler speaks Spanish. And so these people, he's speaking Spanish to them and all this and that. And Paul, were you at this meeting?
No, but I think I know what you're going to say. I think because Tyler's very good at the name. So
we got two wings and a center aisle. And you know, you probably got about 8 seats across, and then all the way back. Tyler says, "I think I met gets introduced. I think I met everybody here. Let me see if I can remember your names." And he starts at one corner, and some of these people he didn't even know where they had sat. He introduced himself at the door, and he started and he said their name, what they did, where they were from, and moved from one to another and did all one side and then came back down and did the whole other side and spoke in Spanish, spoke in English. And I'd never seen anything like, I mean, Paul's in Vegas. There's magic tricks in Vegas. He could go Tyler could do Vegas. I'll tell you what, it was just most impressive thing. And
because he cared.
But he cared, but it shows how good that mind is. And if you've ever heard him speak, and for some of you that if you're just watching, there's plenty of videos of some of our conferences, and I mean they're just precious. well spoken, and the whole family is incredible. So,
okay, Lee, I have a question for you. I'm an ex-stockbroker. I used to do IPOs. I've never thought I would ever see a company that comes out with this kind of a technology. Why doesn't everybody know about it, Lee? If this really is everything we're saying it is, and Paul, I want to hear, I see a big smile on your face. I think you may have heard this before. But why doesn't every doctor on the planet already know about it? Why isn't it everywhere by now? If this is what we say it is, why?
Well, to answer that, you kind of have to throw the medical side under the bus just a little bit, because the pharmaceutical industry owns medicine. Now, that's not said in a bad way, because there's many medicines out there. See, the point here is we don't want to bash medicine, because we need somebody at the bottom of the cliff to put people back together who've fallen off the cliff. Tammi knows about, when you're doing an ambulance run, if something's already happened to them, there's millions and billions of those people. But what we're talking about is something that the pharmaceutical industry doesn't own. And so there isn't any marketing support. This is not being promoted through the pharmaceutical chains or TV or advertising. This is a networking, it's word of mouth. And as I said earlier, it's important that it be that way, because we can now tell the story. We can explain all the nuances about it. So, someone said, well, your doctor, what will I tell my doctor? And it's like, it's not likely they're going to know. There's some, if you're expecting your doctor to endorse this, don't hold your breath, because they simply don't understand it. After they get it, they might, but in the early going, it's kind of rough. And so that's my answer to that question.
Paul, can this stuff hurt you at all? Is there anything negative that can happen to you when you've been around how long?
12, since October of 2009.
Have you ever had a negative experience?
No. And again, some people may have mistaken it.
Not detox.
I was going to say, if you drink a bottle of whiskey and you feel like crap in the morning and take 2 ounces of Asea, wouldn't blame that on the Asea. so it's basically the Asea itself is just amazing, and we just find the more someone takes, the better they tend to feel. Again, I'm not making any claims on any specifics, but it's just been amazing. Whatever your body doesn't need, it just tends to eliminate through urine or sweat, is how I, again, understand it, being from a non-medical background.
Now, Chuck and Tammi, how do you feel about the new products that came along with the nutraceuticals, and then prior to that, the facial care? Does that kind of give us a well-rounded program to take care of the whole body?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that we look at this a lot of times as, you've got to have the workers, and there's some videos people can see, but if you imagine all the building supplies to build a house or a building, and they're all sitting there, and there's even tools there, but if there isn't anybody to pick all of that up and start assembling and pounding nails and lifting boards and all of that, and that's where, what Asea is, the body sees this as the weapon of choice to go in and identify, detect, repair, or replace. And so, as well as Paul mentioned, detox, and that is one of the things that, if people do notice anything with this, we encourage them, when they start, increased amounts of water throughout the day, because we breathe new carpet in our homes, and paint fumes, and eat the wrong foods and all these things. And then all of a sudden in our body, and we're dealing with all of these health challenges in the first place, the immune system says, whoa, we're on overload. We can't deal with handling any more stuff. We're just going to kind of push these toxins over here and store them in this little pocket of the body. And we have enough ammunition, we'll come back and clean it up. Well, this is the ammunition. Once it goes in, the body says, wow, we finally have enough to go in there and start detoxing and cleaning some of this out. So it's being brought back out into the bloodstream. And if you drink the increased amounts of water for those, usually it's just, maybe a couple of short days, and some people may not notice it at all, but that will actually help to flush that out through the kidneys and the liver bringing the body even closer to health.
But Jimmy, I think one of the brilliant business strategies about Asea having our own nutritional line is that like 90% of everyone takes a nutrition of some kind or another, right? So why not buy from your own store, right? So I just think that's another brilliant move on Asea's part.
As well as skincare.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And it all, put together those 9 products makes it a total cellular health company. I have a degree in nutrition science, so I was glad that they have that exceptional, redox science, and then they married it with the right kind of nutrition, and it just plays hand in hand so beautifully. And for me, it's just easier to have every resource in those 9 products.
And if it wasn't for networking, this is really mind-boggling. Paul, if you would have stepped out, Tammi and Chuck, if you wouldn't have done what you've done, how many lives would be affected? It's mind-boggling. I mean, it's got to affect you guys because you've been around from the beginning. It has to be overwhelming.
It is.
What you guys have done to benefit the world.
Let me ask.
Just begun.
Let me interject one more thought there, because I want to hear Paul's response. And that has to do with what you just said. It's the vertical leveraging. Could you kind of blend your answer in and talk about that vertical leveraging and to Jim's point about the numbers of people you've affected? What does vertical leverage mean?
Leverage is, again, I always have that image of a penny doubling, where if I gave you 1 penny today, 2 pennies tomorrow, 4 pennies the day after, and 8 pennies, in less than a month, you have over $1 million. You actually have $5 million because you have about 2.5 million on the 29th day. So you go from one day to the next, you've already got 5 million. So likewise, when you help a couple people and they help a couple people, and it doesn't happen in a perfect model. We don't live in a perfect world, and we're talking about people, not pennies. So, but what happens is that even if it's 90%, doesn't happen, you're still able to help a lot more people than just you by yourself. If you're just trying to go out and try to help one individual at a time, helping people to help other people is really what enables to create that leverage and additional power.
How does that affect your income though?
Oh,
because I spent, we all spend, and Jim can address this, we spend 30, 40 years in a career contributing so that we can use compound interest to leverage a return on our capital.
It takes
you say condense 40 years into 4 years earlier. What does that mean from a leverage point of view?
Yeah, exactly. Because it takes decades to be able to amass that, unless you're born with a silver spoon, or your bank account was already full when you started, which I don't think anyone on this call, we have that advantage or luxury of. So you got to start from zero. And so we help to leverage and help people, teach people how to leverage the human resource, because we really know how powerful that is. And by helping others to help others, you really, again, you ultimately end up compressing time rather than just trying to build up, like Tammi was saying earlier, your hourly wage. Okay, I'm making $10, now I'm making $20, now I'm making $50 an hour. But the cost of living is going up and your bills are getting more, like Chuck said, right? You go from $50,000 a month to $5,000 a month, and you still like stuff that costs $50,000 a month. It's like it gets 17 credit cards deep pretty quick. So you can imagine that here, when you have leverage, you're trying to flip that model upside down to create income that far exceeds what's going out. And that's what I think. But you got to work hard, especially in the beginning. You got to work for the first few years, 3 to 4 years. You got to work really, really hard, but then you can have that ability to have that leverage.
Yeah, when Paul's saying you're working hard, for most people that isn't as hard as you're working right now. You're punching it. If you're getting up at 6 a.m. so you can be at an 8 o'clock job and punch a time card and maybe get a lunch break and then get back home and drive through traffic. Now that's working hard to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's choose your hard, right? You can do that. I think we think that's hard. They think what we do is hard. But choose your hard. What's at the end of the day? What's your potential of when you're going to be able to stop working and retire, right? 40 years, or would you like 4 years?
Well, the thing of it is, and I'm an ex-stockbroker. I used to do financial planning. The one thing people tend to leave out is the emergency, the oh crap. excuse my language, but oh my God, I just fell off the curb and shattered my ankle. Or, you know, something happens to someone and they don't plan on that. And that's why the majority, you know, all people need is an extra $500 a month to avoid the majority of bankruptcies.
Correct.
You know, and isn't it crazy? We're 12 years. There's limited people, frankly, in 33 countries that know anything about this, right? We're just at the beginning.
We are. I mean, if you walk on the street and you ask 100 people, have you ever heard of redox signaling molecules? Probably at least 99 of them are going to say no, right? And then, of course, if you ask them about Asea, probably all 100 of them are going to say no. I mean, just randomly picking people out. So it's still really an amazing timing.
Well, and I'm going to show a couple pictures real quick because this kind of helps validate what we have, guys. This is Coach Rose Monday. She's up in Eugene, Oregon as we speak right now. And this young lady is getting ready to run in a couple of days. Do you notice what's in her hand? Do you notice the Redox pouch? Meet Kendra Chambers. Awesome. She qualified to be in the Olympic trials, which are again up in Eugene. Dr. Dick Walker was blessed. Very grateful for Dr. Walker to help me out getting some extra product. This is Luca Chatham. He is running in about a few minutes to try to qualify for the Olympic trials. Do you see what is in his hand, guys? Okay. And then this is Lucas. Say, you better believe I'm taking Renew 28 with me to the Olympic trials. I am proud to be powered by Asea Redox. Awesome. Guys, we have no idea what we have our hands on. It is so blasted exciting. It's hard to sleep if you really think about what we have. Right, Chuck?
It is.
I see that big old smile on your face.
You find yourself, it's almost as you step into this world and you start realizing and seeing by you getting it on your friends, family, total strangers, and the results they get, you start pinching yourself and saying, is this real? And did somebody give me this gift that I get the right to share it? And there's somebody that's going to pay me on top of it. And my process is I just get to stay healthy because the more money I make with it and by helping people, the more I can take for free and get paid for staying healthy. And you find yourself just pinching yourself saying, you know, this is unbelievable. And, you know, I try to paint a picture with people. It's like, we could take anybody's background, and I do this, and I'll just, maybe it's a painter, or Jim, it could be you as a stockbroker, and just say, okay, are you busy? Oh yeah, we're busy. We're really busy. How busy would you be if you were the only one in all of Texas?
No.
How if every transaction had to go through you? How busy would you be if you were the only one in the whole world or in the whole United States?
Yeah.
What if you were the only one in the whole world? That's where we're at. If you get a piece of this, you've got a piece of something that the world's eventually, the whole world's, they all deserve to know about it now. And it's growing. But like I said, this is the biggest week ever in the history of the company as far as we can see. And so it's growing, but it's going to continue to grow. And it's an opportunity for anyone that's looking at this, or even if you've got in and you really haven't kicked the tires enough to realize what you got. This is the time to run. You'll look back on this. And if you think where we're at now, if you can imagine, because we've all seen it, you know, it's like Paul talking about the penny doubling. Well, I expect we're going to be about double next year. You know it's compounding.
Yeah. So true. Yeah, and guys, we're at the top of the hour. We got to turn it over to Danny Doyle. I want to thank you guys so much because what we have is a gift, and this is how we pay it back as well by doing this. We so much thank you for your time, Chuck and Tammy and Paul. Can't wait to see you guys in Nashville. Insight. And real quick for all the people watching, if you're not into the business, that's okay. You don't have to do it. But you know what? You may know someone that might need this. You may have all the income in the world, and that's great. But there's someone else who doesn't have that. And you may not believe this, but it's true. And just because you may not believe it doesn't mean that it's not true. It is real. There are a lot of doubting Thomases out there, but what we have is a gift. And there are a lot of people that will reject this and come back later, as we've got people coming back to us and go, you know what? We need to take a look at what you got. So guys, thank you so much. Next week, we are back to our medical panel. We got Dr. Hershkowitz and we've got Dr. Carmen Keith. So we've got two powerhouse doctors with us next week. And so guys, thank you so much. Please stick around for the Aussies. I'm going to hand it over to Danny Doyle. Dr. Lee, Paul, thank you so much. And Chuck and Tammi.
Thanks, guys. Great to be
Bye,
with you.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody. I'll see you later.
All right.